Welcome back to another video, guys. In this one we're going to take a look at how to pitch a Vango Force 10 tent. That's right, guys, we are here today. I'm going to show you, and this is actually going to be quite an instructional video here on how to pitch a Vango Force 10. I've had a bit of a request for this one, so I thought I would go ahead and do it. Vango Force 10 is a very classic and traditional tent. It's very much that cartoon style tent, and they are super strong, and they're a fantastic piece of equipment that have been around for a very long time now. What I have here in front of me is the tent itself, both the inner and the outer. This is a OEX dry bag that I keep it in now rather than the original bag. I have the peg bag, quite a large peg bag for this tent, and the poles. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at how to put this tent up. So the first thing we need to do is go ahead and construct the poles. Now, the poles for the Force 10 are remarkably large. And for those that are used to lightweight backpacking tents, this tent in general is going to seem massively excessive. But because the poles are this thick, well, it's quite thin, but it's an aluminium large diameter pole, and because of that, this tent is super sturdy in the wind, but it does weigh a lot. So in the bag, in the pole bag, there is 5 poles, 4 legs and 1 ridge pole. So this is one of the legs here. Now this isn't a good example because that one is actually a little bit broken, but on the legs, so the poles just fold and with a spring in the middle, and they slot together. On one end you have a smaller bit that fits into the next bit, and on the other end of the legs, yeah, you have a little plastic foot. So that's the easiest way to identify the legs. So there's 4 of those. Just like so. And then you have your ridge pole. Now the legs are made of 3 pieces, the ridge pole is made of 4, and there is an extra piece. The ridge pole, again, slots together the same. This time, however, it's rounded off at the ends and has a hole in each end, which we'll come back to what that's for. There is also this collar, or sleeve, that goes over the top, and it's meant to sit in the middle to give a bit more structure. At this point, your poles are done. You now need to put them together. So in the peg bag, there should be 2 plastic, what is referred to as the A-frame pieces. Now I'll come in and just show you what these look like. So these pieces look like that. It's a metal spike on the top with a plastic A-shaped housing with a hole, and there is 2 of those. Now what you do with these is you take 2 of your legs, stand them up, create a rough A-frame, place the piece on, put the other leg in, and that is one of your ends of your tent built. So you can pop that at the back, out the way. And what we then need is the canvas. Now, an important note about this tent is its inner pitch first, which means if it is raining, unlike today, which is another lovely day down here, if it's raining, you need to move quickly or your tent's going to get wet. Now the other interesting thing about this tent is the inner is actually a lot larger in terms of its pack size than the outer. So this is the inner here. If I can get it out the bag, we'll leave the outer. The ground sheet, or the bottom side of the inner, is this super thick, heavy rubberized, and the rest of the fabric, which is the green and the orange, is cotton. So this tent is actually cotton, which makes it heavy, but it makes it incredibly warm. So obviously when you're laying it out, make sure that you don't let the orange side touch the ground. So you lay it out. The door for this is at one end. This point, what we do is we take our ridge poles. Now, it depends on the condition of your tent. In my case, there is just a fabric loop in the middle. Some of them have clips to make that easier. I have to thread that through and lay that there in the middle. You then stand up one end of your legs. Now at the foot end of the tent, the pole sits where the straight line is, before where the taper starts. You then take the ridge pole and you put the spike on the apex piece onto or through the hole. And then you do the same at the other end, if your poles don't fall apart. Again at this end, it lines up in line with the front kind of straight bit. You can shuffle it back if you need to, and we can adjust as we go. There is then a rubber loop on my one at each end. Now actually, what I tend to do is put that underneath the ridge pole, and that holds that in place. Now at this point the tent will fall over, so keep a hold of it. Most of them have a clip on this point that clips into that hole. And there we go, it's kind of standing itself up, but it won't necessarily stay that way for long, so we'll get it pegged out. So to peg this out, you have a rubber loop and then an elastic loop. Now what I tend to do is do both, although it's not entirely necessary. You can get away with just the elastic loop. But what you want to do is this front one, because you want to start, I personally start at the door end on one of the sides, and you want to just bring that kind of out, and then of course your peg goes in at your usual 45-degree angle. Do not bring this diagonally forward, because that will mess up the shape later. And then all we do is work along the way, putting those rubber ones in, making this bit here tight. Again, this back one comes basically straight out, and then what we can do is adjust the pole to be in line with that, and then we work our way around the back as well. It's very intuitive pegging this tent out, very intuitive. You can start working on the elastic. And these just get pegged straight out as well. And what the elastic does is pulls it up and gives more of a proper bathtub floor to the tent as well. So now you take your outer. Now some of these tents have an outer that's the same fabric and colour as the inner. It's still cotton, it's just got a bit of a treated to it. My one has a more traditional nylon outer, but they go on the same way. So opening this up, what you need to find is the door end and the foot end. So this is the foot end, door ends at that end. There's a couple of things to pay attention to when putting the outer on. On the side of the tent, there's a black clip on both sides. There is a corresponding clip on the inside of the outer. Let me just find it for you. There we go. So they need to clip in, and that holds the outer, and that kind of pulls the inner, pulls the inner slightly further out. There is also, of course, the spikes on the top of the poles, and they correspond to, let me find it. Where's my door? That'll be the easiest way to find it. So, for example, here at the door end, at the top of the zip, there is a little brass eyelet, and the spike on the top of the poles needs to go through that, and then simply you pull the outer over the top of the pole. To peg this out, the nifty thing that you can quite often do is the elastic that are on these quite often matches up to the elastic for your inner. You can normally use the same peg for the two bits. Sometimes. This one here needs a bit of adjustment then. Through and through. And pull that, let's pull that this way. So that that's tight. I find though that you do need to put some extra pegs in, and certainly for the front it requires its own pegs. And then finally, on either side there is a guy line, and they actually correspond to where that internal connection point is as well. Now, what I have found, and what colleagues have found, is that these guy lines are far too long most of the time, especially for campsites. Now, a lot of these tents come with extra guy lines that you can tie to the top of the poles as well, if needs be. There we go. That is it fully pitched with the guy lines, and then of course we can just open it up and get inside. So there we go, guys. That is how to pitch a Vango Force 10 tent. If you want to know more about the tent itself rather than just how to pitch it, check out this video up here where I go into details on this tent, and there is also videos from that same day on my other tents. But that's going to about do it for this one, guys. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing down below as well. Leave a comment whilst you're down there, and until next time, bye for now.